Kia ora, my name's Mike Atkinson. This presentation is going to be looking at how to create slack or lower someone off a ATC or reverso when it's in guide mode. The information and images from this presentation were taken from an article put together by Sash for the Nazoya Quarterly magazine. There's two different types or two different ways of lowering alpha in guide mode. One is where the climber can momentarily get some weight off the rope, and one where they can't, so where the system's weighted the whole time.
Before looking at any complex ways to solve the problem of creating slack in a loaded device in guide mode, it's really good to try simple things first. The first one you might want to try is just levering the beaner with one hand, so keeping one hand on the dead rope here and the other hand, that's the beaner that's locking onto the device, is just lever the beaner back and forth, left to right, and that creates very small amounts of slack, and that might be just enough for what you need to try and do, but definitely a good place to start. The first scenario is where the climber is able to momentarily take their weight off the rope. So the first step is you'll be holding this dead rope here, the dead rope here, and is to attach your beaner to your harness, a locking beaner, tie an Italian hitch and tie it off with 3 half hitches. That means you can then take your hands off the rope.
Once those half hitches are tied off, then put another beaner up on the focal point next to the beaner that is holding the ATC or reverso in position. Then take the rope that's coming up from the climber, so this rope here, and this is where they have to unweight the rope momentarily. So the rope, as they unweight it, you take this rope here, click it into that beaner, you just put it to the focal point, and they sit back down. Now what this has done is this has opened up the guide mode now, and so that all the weight should be onto your tied off Italian hitch. Once the weight's on the Italian hitch, you can undo the half hitches on your Italian hitch, and then holding on to the dead rope of the Italian hitch, which is in front of you or forward, you can then lower them down or create slack in the system through that way. The second scenario here is where the climber cannot take weight off the climbing rope. The first step is the same, where you put a locking beaner on your belay abseil loop, tie an Italian hitch, and then tie that off with half hitches. Then on that loop, there's a loop here of your belay device. That you can lark's foot, which is a girth hitch, a sling, usually quite a long sling, 120 centimeter one works well. Lark's foot it onto that loop there, then put it up to a beaner above the focal point, so usually above the knot. Using a sling or cordelette, you put it above that knot there, and then run it back down towards you. Once you've got that sling in place, you can either clip the sling into you can clip the sling into your belay abseil loop, or you can hang it down a bit longer and put your foot in it. So what you're going to do is put weight on that sling, either standing in it or by leaning back, and that'll open up the guide mode, and you better control it with the Italian hitch.
Couple of final thoughts when trying to create slack in a weighted device in guide mode. First one is always start with simple ways of trying to solve the problem first, and then gradually go into more complex ways if that's not working. And the second thing is make sure you always have that Italian hitch in there. There have been numerous incidents where people have tried to lift the weighted device up with the sling back and holding it just with their hands with no other device, and suddenly you've got pretty much got the full weight of someone's body, the climber's body weight on your hands, and that's can be a lot of weight. So having that extra friction going through the Italian hitch just gives you a lot more control.